With Charlie set to appear in the 2026 Thomas reboot, I thought it'd be nice to briefly look back on the character from the original series. Before I progress, I am aware Charlie's gender has been changed in the reboot, and I'm cool with that. And while I like the idea of Charlie being trans, I'm still going to be using he/him pronouns when referring to their original series counterpart, cause by the look of things, it's most likely set in a different canon. So Charlie isn't the most liked character, no surprise there, and he's probably up there for most disliked characters in the franchise. That's not to say everyone hates Charlie. Like, personally, I like Charlie, but then again, I like a lot of hated or quote-unquote forgettable characters. But I'm not oblivious to why people hate Charlie. He's annoying, he tells bad jokes, and those are pretty much the only reasons why people hate him. Makes sense, even if I don't have the same thoughts. Even though not everyone hates Charlie, there's probably no one who considers him to be their favorite character, or at least no one in the fandom considers him a favorite. With the news of now her returning in the reboot, most are hoping that they do something new with Charlie, something that isn't just telling bad jokes. I honestly wouldn't have a problem if they kept Charlie's jokester persona in the reboot. I'm not opposed to them doing something different, but I don't think there's any harm in keeping Charlie's persona from the original series just because it's a reboot and they changed Charlie's gender. Now, amongst these discussions, which I usually see on Twitter, some people who are hoping that they do something more with the character in the reboot have been saying so because apparently Charlie in the original was a forgettable character with a nothing personality. And that's what inspired me to make this video. Now, I know why people hate Charlie, and that's fine, but to say that he, of all characters, has a nothing personality, and forgettable, people can never forget why they hate this character so much. How does that make him forgettable? As for character, well, okay, Charlie wasn't the most complex character, but neither were most of the characters introduced post-season 3. But I wouldn't ever say he had a nothing personality. Charlie's main trait is that he's a jokester. Now, we've had jokester type characters before, like Thomas, Percy, Bill, Ben, and James. But whilst their jokester traits is more akin to them playing jokes or tricks on people and engines, Charlie is more clearly a literal jokester who tells puns. And yeah, they're not that funny, but I'll give the boy credit for not ending each joke with a "get it" and then explain the joke in detail like Aunchins Go Percy. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring Aunchins Go into the subject, and I don't want to be one of those people who brings it up just to crap on it, but as someone who feels ambivalent to the series, one thing that I really didn't like was Percy telling puns. I mean, telling puns wouldn't be a problem in itself if it weren't for the fact that he says "get it" followed by an explanation of the joke every single time. Bro will never be Charlie. Getting back to Charlie, him being a jokester is his main quirk. But that's not his only Charlie quirk. For one thing, Charlie's an asshole. Maybe not in the same way as Gordon or James, besides one episode, but it's very clear in his first appearance that he's not the nicest guy. Not intentionally per se, but his boisterous and fun attitude are what make him view engines like Thomas and Edward as boring at first, and his words unintentionally manipulate them into engaging with his playful demeanor, which end up backfiring against them. Charlie is very much under the mindset of all play and no work, which may explain why in most of his speaking appearances he's never doing any proper work. He sees most things as either a joke or an opportunity to have fun, and only stops when stuff gets serious or someone shouts the phrase "really useful" to him. Now, while Charlie wasn't intentionally trying to be a douche in Playtime and Charlie and Eddie, he does come off as more in Race to the Rescue, where he makes fun of Flynn. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that he was being malicious, as like I said, Charlie sees some things as a joke. So while both moments in this episode make him out to seem more like an ass, it still falls in line with him seeing things like Flynn wobbling as humor. His assholery comes off as more playful and oblivious in comparison to other characters who know good and well what the hell they're saying. At the end of the day, Charlie is someone who loves anything and everything that is fun. He loves telling jokes, he loves racing, he loves getting splashed by mud, he loves shunting, he loves snow, he loves making people and engines happy or laugh. That last one I think is showcased best in the episode Ho Ho Snowman, where Charlie tries to make Henry feel better about snow by telling jokes. It's only when he scares off Henry for a third time that he realizes that he can't always make everyone happy during certain situations. Not everyone is gonna see the fun that he sees with everything. Charlie's unserious nature later goes against him in Not Now Charlie, where the one time something serious occurs and he tries to warn everyone about it, everyone thinks he's just screwing with them. Which is kind of depressing in retrospect. You could say Charlie brought this upon himself for being a goofy person, but the way how everyone apart from Harold conjures the thought that Charlie's just playing a joke, all of his jokes have consistently started off with a question and then end with a punchline. I know it's for plot reasons, but when has Charlie ever started and finished a joke with no build-up and punchline with a non-gleeful expression wrapped around his face? Maybe he's told jokes like that off-screen, but since we never see him do that, it's hard to say, and personally, I don't see Charlie as being the type of jokester who tells a joke with no build-up. That's more of a Bill and Ben thing. I could see them walking up on a random-ass stranger and yelling, "Your shoe's untied," with no build-up, and then immediately running off. At the end of the episode, we see Charlie reflect a bit on how no one takes him seriously due to the reputation he built as being a silly guy. While he does continue telling jokes, I could see him still wanting to be taken seriously during serious situations, and I'm sure his friends know that by now too. Charlie will always be someone who loves having fun and telling jokes, but this was the first time where everyone saw him as a joke. He's gotten involved in serious situations in the past, but nothing to the extent of what's presented in this episode, and because of that, it does kind of make sense why the engines didn't believe him. I would have expected more skepticism on their part, rather than immediate dismissal, but from what we've seen of Charlie before, it's not too surprising. It would be interesting to see Charlie in another role where the situation he's in is severe, but unfortunately, this was the last major role he had in the series. This point forward, his presence in the series, or franchise, progressively got smaller, and smaller, and smaller, and smaller. Oh cool, he's acknowledged again, and he's gone again. Some think his eventual absence from the series was because the writers knew that people didn't like Charlie. But given that he wasn't the only character both liked and disliked by the fanbase whose role in the series dwindled, and that the reason for other disliked characters, the Logging Locos, being retired was because the production team at that time wanted to focus on other characters, I doubt that was the case. Charlie may not have been a complex character. He may not have been a good character either, but he did have some things that made him more interesting than most of the other new characters that came before or after him. He had something unique to him as being the jokester of Sodor. He was someone who was always happy, loved making others laugh, was kind of a douchebag, but also someone who meant well and doesn't like to see others sad. And when shit gets serious, that's when Charlie gets serious. He sees most things as an opportunity to have fun, but not everything. And that's why I think Charlie is a more interesting character than people give credit for. Now, am I expecting to change anyone's minds about Charlie with this video? Hell no. You're very much allowed to hate this character all you want. I respect your opinion if so. I just wanted to share my thoughts on a character that hardly gets any tension, and some positive tension at that. There's really no Tom's character that I hate unlike everyone else. I don't care for a lot of them, but I do still care enough as I'm able to remember everyone's names, and I do mean everyone. If I mentioned Carter or Cole, most of you wouldn't know who I was referring to. If this video does well, I don't know if it will, and I don't really care if it doesn't, then I might make more of these types of videos on other disliked characters like Charlie's possible brother William Billiard. Anyway, I don't really know how to end this video off, so insert video throwback here.